Hey guys, here's our first video in this week's series. We're taking a small break from geometry, though I have to say for the most part geometry was going really well for most of you. I'm not surprised. It's a visual kind of math, it's a fun kind of math, but we can't ignore the other things that are going to creep back up onto us come test time, come report card time. So let's take a look at some stuff from your past that hopefully you are still pretty strong with. Here we go. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Now, as always, you see essential words up here. If you're following along with the note frame, please look at the essential words. Make sure you understand what they say. If not, make sure you get one from me in class. That could help you out. Here's a problem. Which integer represents this scenario? 8 feet below sea level. Integer is a number, any number. Scenario, that's when they give you like a situation, like a sentence that says something that's happening. 8 feet below sea level. Now in this case you have multiple choice. Keep in mind you won't always have multiple choice, so it's best to use it now but not rely on it forever. 8 feet below sea level. 8 feet below. Below, is that going to be positive or negative? That's going to be negative. So 8 feet below is really another way of saying -8. And there are lots of scenarios like this, and you have to make sure that like in word problems and stuff, you understand what they're saying. Here's not a word problem situation. Here's a number line situation. Find the value of h, okay? Write your answer as a decimal number. Now, in the 4th grade, they usually won't give you a decimal that's out of this world. From 0 to 1, you're pretty safe assuming that the decimal is cut up into tenths. What are tenths? Well, there's the fraction 1/10, but then that also equals 0.1. Likewise, if we have 2/10, that will equal 0.2. How do I know this is cut into tenths? Well, I can count how many pieces there are. And if there are 10, that means it's cut into tenths. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, my mouse is being weird. Sorry. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I didn't count 0, because when you're counting things, you don't start with 0 usually. You start with 1. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 9, and 10. And that's how I know it is cut into tenths. Which one was the h? We can go backwards for that. 9, 8, 7. The h is 7/10, or in other words, 0.7. That's a decimal. They asked for a decimal. How is 7/10 0.7? Look, 1/10 is 0.1. 2/10 is 0.2. So 7/10, the 7th one out of 10, that would be 0.7. I hope that makes sense. We'll go over it again in class. You'll have chances in homework to practice too. Type the missing number. That's easy if you know how a number line works. Look, there's 0 over here, +1, +2. We go backwards, blank, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, etc. Just be careful and realize the way you're counting. Negatives get counted backwards. So the first backwards number, well, before -2, should be -1. That should just make sense in your head. What is 90% of 40? Now this is a 5th grade concept. 4th graders, if you're sticking with me, good for you. What is 90% of 40? When you're solving this problem, what you always want to do is realize that it's going to be a multiplication problem. But what do we multiply? Well, I'll tell you. You multiply the regular number that you see, the 40, times the other number, the 90. Hey, that's simple. There's 2 numbers and we just multiply them. That's pretty easy. Here's the thing. With this percentage sign, not only did it tell you it was a multiplication problem, it also told you that this 90 isn't a 90. It's 90%. And when you multiply, you really want to transfer that percent into a decimal. Don't worry, that's not hard. You just do the hop twice trick. 1, 2, we hop twice. That's where a decimal goes, right past that 9. Now you should know that with a 0 in a decimal place in decimal land, if it's at the very end, you don't even have to pay attention to it. So I'm just going to do 40 times 0.9, and I will get a right answer. 9 times 0, 0. 9 times 4, 36. I only have one number. I crossed off the 0 past the decimal point, so I only have to jump once. There we go, one jump. The answer is 36.0. Even if I hadn't crossed off that 0, I still would have got a right answer. I just made it easier for myself by crossing off a number past a 0 at the end of a decimal. I could have just gone 0 times 0, 0, 0 times 4, also 0. Drop your turtle egg. 9 times 0, 0. 9 times 4, 36. Since I didn't cross off the 0, I have 2 numbers past the decimal point. So that means 2 jumps. 1, 2. Oh, look. My answer, 36.0. Over here was 36.0. Over here, 36.0. Hey, we got it right no matter what. As long as we're jumping the right amount of jumps in our final answer by counting how many numbers are past the decimal point. Let's move on. How do you write 2/10 as a percentage? Well, one thing you can do is simply know that the tenths are equal to, well, 10. Tenths are equal to 10. So 2/10 as a percentage, it's 0.1, 0.10. It's also, oh sorry, not 2/10. That's wrong. That's 1/10. My mistake. 2/10 is equal to 0.2, 0.20. And as a percentage, it's equal to 20%. You see how easy, how naturally those all connect? 2/10, 0.20, 0.20%. You don't have to see that 0 there because in decimal land you can cut off the last 0 all by itself. But you see how it all looks like it belongs together. If you can't remember that, you can always rely on division. You put the number that's up inside the box, on the bottom outside the box. Can 10 fit inside of 2? No, 10 is bigger than 2. So you drop a decimal point and add a 0. Can 10 go into 20? It sure can. Twice. 10 times 2 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. We're not going to have a remainder. Hooray for us. Bring your decimal point straight up. And look, we've got 0.2. Just like over here we had 0.2. This one we memorized. This one we divided to get our answer. Hey, if you've got your fraction to decimals memorized or fraction to percentages memorized, then you don't have to divide. If you don't have it memorized, you better get comfortable dividing. Now 0.2 equals 20%. That one you just kind of have to know off the back of your hand. And look, we got 20%, 20%. 2 ways to know the answer to this problem. Here's your discussion point. Take a look at it. I don't want to go over it now. I want to give you a chance to do it on your own if you think if you think you can. But we'll also talk about it in class, so don't worry about that. All right. And then here's your pop guide. 5 problems. One right here. One right here. Please, if you're going to do this on your own, draw the number lines out. One right here. And then these 2 at the bottom. I want you to give them all a shot. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me on part 1. Part 2 and 3 are on the way.